Hi, this is Jason, and welcome to Linxter Integration Demo Part 2 for our HelloWorld.net solution. In Part 1, we had downloaded the Linxter SDK and Hello World solution file. We registered our program to the Internet Service Bus and copied its activity ID and downloaded supporting database. In Part 2, we're going to open the solution file, we're going to add some references, add the database, we will add the activity ID. We're going to review the code and look at the one-time step for registering and activating the program instance. We'll look at the event we subscribe to know when we've received a message. How to create a communication channel, and how to call create message. So let's dive right into this. I've already downloaded the solution file and opened it up in Visual Studio 2010. So let's go ahead and add our references. And I'm going to add the Linxter SDK reference, log4net, and our SQLite DLL. Now for SQLite, I'm running Windows 7 64 bits, so I'm using the 64-bit SQLite DLL. There's a 32-bit one as well. Make sure you use the right one for your system. Alright, I've added them. So next, just check the properties. You want to make sure that copy local is set to true for the Linxter SDK, for log4net, and for SQLite. Now log4net, we use that for logging in .NET. Alright, now let's add the database. Now, we had downloaded all the database files for our instances of our program, for Windows Phone 7, for Java and Android, and for .NET. So let's take the database for .NET and drop it into our code. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and refresh the solution. And I'm going to show all files, and that shows the database. Now the database, we use that for storing it as our local encrypted transactional queue for storing the outbound messages after they're created, before they're sent. Also for storing all the API configuration settings. Alright, so I'm going to include that database in the project, and under properties I'm going to make sure the build action is set to content, and copy to output directory is set to copy if newer. And we are good to go there. So let's go ahead and look at our code. Now in the Hello World solution file, we already have our using statements, the Linxter SDK, the common entities, and the SDK event arguments. Now the Linxter SDK class exposes 3 interfaces, all of which are implemented by the Linxter SDK class. We've broken out into messaging, registration, and communication channels. Alright, the one-time event for registering your program instance and making sure it's activated is right here. In the registration interface, if it is not registered, go ahead and we call the register program instance method call. And we pretty much wait for it to be registered, one-time event. And next, we want to make sure it is activated. Again, as part of the registration interface, we say, hey, is it activated? And if not, we wait until it is. Now, when we registered our program instance to the Internet Service Bus, in our Web Manager settings, we said automatically activate instances of this program and associate them with our Web Manager account. And that's the most common use case. So the activation actually happens at the same time as the registration step. Alright, so next, here's our event through the messaging interface, message received. So when we've received messages, we go to the onMessageReceived method. And you can create this however you want. For Hello World, we basically say, hey, message received, and we display the contents of the body. Alright, now that brings us to creating a communication channel. So there's the event we're listening to for messages received. Now on to communication channels. Now, a communication channel is a digital contract between program instances that governs data exchange between them. Communication channels have to be requested and to be accepted. And in this case, we're saying, hey, do we have any communication channels at all? And since we are just running the program for the first time, we won't. So we go ahead and create a communication channel request through the communication channel interface. There's our create request method call, and we are sticking in our own program instance ID. So essentially, we're creating a communication channel with ourselves, and we will use that then to send a message to ourselves. And here we're waiting for that communication channel to be established. Now, when we registered this program to the Internet Service Bus, we said automatically accept channel requests. So once the request is received by the service bus, it will automatically accept it, and it will send the acceptance and the communication channel contract back to the instance. So once that happens, we move on to sending or creating a message. And here we have the messaging interface, create message. And this is how we actually create the message. Of the Linxter message members, activity ID is the only required argument. And so let's stick in our activity ID that we had copied earlier. Now, when you register a program to the Internet Service Bus, it is given an activity ID. Each program has its own activity ID, and when you create a message, that argument has to accompany the message. It's used to associate the message with the program. And here's our body, test message, put whatever you want in there, and our receiver IDs. In this case, we are sending it to ourselves, so we are sticking in our own program instance ID. If I didn't add receiver IDs argument to this message, or if I put in a empty value, that would turn it into a broadcast message, and it would be sent to all instances that have a communication channel with this instance. Now, on the create message, to learn more about create message, you can go to linxterdeveloper.com, which is our developer guide. Under reference, under create message, we have a whole section about create message, and we cover all the Linxter message members, the required activity ID. Everything else is optional. You can have attachments. The body, you can enable message tracking for non-repudiation. You can set different priorities to messages in the outbound queue. The receiver IDs, you can use a secondary outbound queue, and you can also add tags to your message. And then subsections, there we go into more details on sending and receiving, the message received event, and receiving attachments. Alright, but our program is ready to be run. So let's go ahead and build the solution. The build succeeded, and let us run it. And first, it's registering and activating the program instance. Alright, the instance was registered and activated. It's now creating a communication channel request. The communication channel request was accepted. It sent a message, waiting for the response, and it received the message, test message. Alright, and that concludes part 2 of the demo. I hope you found this useful. Thank you.